glad, to have you. And this is a topic and a session that I think has been top of mind for a lot of people. Just given the kind of things that are happening in the world, and given you've had the rare position of being at one of the top operationally intensive companies in the country, as well as being at one of our few homegrown AI startups as well. So couldn't think of a better person to sort of talk to the community at the blend of operations, business, and what artificial intelligence potentially means for all of this.
Yeah, glad to be here and happy to share what I learned through the journey and what perspectives I'm learning continuously when I meet new startups, etc., in my new role.
Awesome. So maybe why don't we get started with a quick primer on your background? We've done our best to represent your career, but it's been a vast career across so many different things. Would love to know more about how your roles, experience shaped your journey, and any specific learnings that you have to share along the way. And maybe we get started from there.
Sure. So I'll just take a step back. Um, Start with my first role, which started as a chemical engineer at Procter and Gamble's technical center in Kobe, in Japan. And I was working on things like formulations, program managing a new manufacturing plant setup. And there were several learnings, but the key learning was uh, as a third party observer, if you look at the advantages that a company gets when they put emphasis on process, right? You can create an everlasting company. And everything about Procter and Gamble, and I am sure similar companies, is about process, the right incentives, that just makes this engine going, right? So if you would look at a company like that, it attracted the best talent. It kept challenging them with new good work, had a mechanism for keeping the innovation going, great incentive, disincentive structures. And that's a very humbling experience for an individual who is working in that company, because it is actually individual independent in that sense, no person dependency at all, right? And it's also inspirational that when you eventually create a large corporation, that's a role model to see, right? Post that, I have done an entrepreneurial, at least an attempt to be a good entrepreneur after returning to India. There were three of us. We took an entrepreneurial opportunity to start training.com. The main learnings there were that you can do a lot with less, right? Second, this was a strange structure where it was a startup within a large corporation, right? So although it would be a different entity in the future, with a different with complete autonomy with the founders, which is us. We also saw that how structure, bureaucracy early in the company just kills the company, right? So second was incentive alignment, right? You are working on a side project for a company or a large corporation, or it is your life's mission. Your life depends on it, right? Very big differences. So obviously, for all of these reasons, it didn't work very well. Started investing in different companies, getting inspired by very good entrepreneurs in health tech, clean tech as part of Venture East. Post this, let's call it my first attempt to be an entrepreneur. Post that, I just felt that it's the time to create new things. Great companies were getting created in India. Flipkart was coming out, etc. So about 2013, 14 time frame, I teamed up with one of my colleagues, started Gen Y Medium, which is a marketing tech and services company. And obviously, because it is a startup, the amount of learning amassed here is huge. So huge amount of learnings. But if I were to point out a few, right, I would say select the best, the right addressable opportunity, because you're giving your lives 10, 15 years, if not all your life, to this adventure. It better be worth it, right? So selecting the right addressable market or sector to build in was something that we learned. Um, the other is, you know, this is something that we didn't do enough, which was uh, zero tolerance for mediocrity, right? No, let's say, playing to the prima donnas, which always are there in smaller companies, early stage startup companies, etc. And the ability to take decisions which are harsh, fast, right? So these were some of the things that I believe are my learnings, at least from Gen Y. There is, you can go on and on from the number of learnings, but um, I would say these were primarily the learnings. Um, and of course, these are learnings from mistakes that we have made in the past, and we hopefully, as entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs, we do not make the same mistakes again, right? Maybe new ones. So that was my entrepreneurial journey. Sold the company to Ola. Had an amazing experience, very contrasting with my own stint as uh, as running a startup. Uh, one, the main point that I mentioned, that select the right opportunity. Is it big enough? Is it global? Right? That the relevance and the importance of that, keeping the future in mind, was very, very clear. The second was, how do you assemble the best team that is out there, whether from India or global or expats, right? That is step number one, probably. If you're not doing that, then you will not be able to do something dramatic which has not been done before. That was the second experience. This is more related to Ola Electric, Krutrim, right? Where we were doing things where probably some of the talent was not available easily, right? And the third was uh, just the, let's say, your confidence on the young to deliver, right? It's, I just enjoyed working with very young guys who are right out of college, uh, are ready to take the chances, put just the tremendous amount of sweat to develop something. I think that is the alpha of a small company versus a big company, right? This young power, right? If you don't have enough young people in the team who are very motivated with the purpose, etc., you'll not be successful, at least not as successful. So my belief in this alpha in the company just increased, right, over a period of time, and especially my last stint with Ola. So those are, let's say, I'd say, encompassing the learnings so far.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And maybe one further question from my side. I mean, we've all heard about Prutrim from the outside. I'm sure a lot of people are also curious about what the company does a little bit on the day to day. Maybe you could also tell us a little bit about the kind of work that you were doing at Prutrim, and then we'll use that as the segue into the rest of the conversation about AI and the world today.
Yeah, so if you look at the primary vision behind Krutrim, which continues to be the same and it is in the public domain, is to build the necessary infrastructure so that entrepreneurs, startups, developers in India can also start building on top of that infrastructure, right? So it's not a end application company, right? It's a infrastructure company. Now, infrastructure is of two types, right? Soft infrastructure and the hard infrastructure, let's say. And on the soft infrastructure in the new AI world, you need models, right? But how do you differentiate these models? Because there are huge global models which will always keep coming, and these are very resource intensive, etc. So there must be a use case to define what the model is. And for us, it was two primary reasons. One is we are a different country with different cultural nuances, multiple languages, etc. And the thought was that AI will kind of transcend all end applications, which is happening right now, right? So when you, as a user or a developer, you have a question, right? Or you have a query, the response will be global. It won't be kind of very nuanced for India, right? And that you will see as you play with these tools, etc. You will realize that first AI is encompassing almost all end applications. It will happen, and the second is it is your window to the world, right? Because these applications are your window, and at the end, at the baseline, it's the an AI model that powers it. So practically, you would lose any difference, any cultural nuance you may have, any multilinguality you may be desiring. And therefore, you needed foundational models, right? So this was one, let's call it the soft infrastructure. And on top of it, different application developers could build applications, right? So an example would be if you want to do a healthcare application for rural India, right? Which is a government service, right? How would you do that without having a voice interface? Because people are not very used to typing, etc., in their mother tongue. And how do you then reply back or give information in things, because healthcare is very contextual, right? It is not, you can't take responses which are set up in the US where they're in or the UK where there is NHS, etc. We have a very different infrastructure, so the context is very important, right? So one is the interface, the ability to correspond with the user in the right manner, and finally um, the infrastructure that exists, right? So that's an example, right? So the software infrastructure was there. The second was, of course, the entire cloud infrastructure, right? So which is the hard part, right? So there is no native India cloud. You are dependent on AWS, Azure, GCP, and without that, you will not have any control on the infrastructure. And if you look at the multiplier effect of having your own cloud infrastructure, you have to look to China, right? So you look at their cloud economy. It's all Ali Cloud. It's Tencent Cloud, right? They have, very soon you will see DeepSeek 2, which will be Huawei based. So they have their own semiconductors and so on. And of course, they are behind, but they will not be behind forever, right? Because some hard calls were taken years ago, right? And we felt that that is something that needs to be done. And with the experience of building Ola cabs, and Ola Electric was also on the way along that time, it was very important to uh, take a bet, which various other companies who have never done hardware, who have not done manufacturing, would not take, right? And it's a very capital intensive business, as you know. So very few people would be able to do it. And that was the vision with which we started, that, okay, we'll create an infrastructure company which will have soft infrastructure, hard infrastructure, and enable this AI ecosystem. And there is a big void there, right? We only have companies which are from overseas. So that was the grand vision with which we started. And of course, we built a team of about 250 engineers spread across primarily Bangalore. This is the youth power I tell you about, right? That just incredible. But very specialized skills like cloud engineering in Singapore, or LLM development expertise and experience in the Bay Area. So that was a big effort. And yeah, I think the journey has been progressing since then. You will see a lot more coming out, both hard and soft on the soft side, in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, for that background on both what you've been up to over the last several years and for this clear sort of look into what TrueTrim has been doing as a company, why, how it started, what its aims were.